right, welcome to the first episode of a show that I'm calling Into the Woods. This is the first episode of what will, from this point on, be a new podcast specifically for Patreon supporters. So, I'm launching the Patreon again, getting that back up and running. I'm going to do every week one of these episodes that will accompany the story that launches that week. So I'll just tell you a little bit about the Patreon and the benefits included in that. And then, we'll just do this as a little kind of preview episode. And if you like what you hear and you want to hear more, consider becoming a patron and supporting the Warning Woods that way. So one of the main benefits that I think a lot of people will want the Patreon for will be ad-free episodes. So I know I've been getting comments from people lately about the ads in the episode. Let me tackle that towards the end of this. I'm going to come back around and talk about why I'm doing a Patreon and why I'll do that. And then in that, I will also discuss the reason for ads being included in my episodes. So the Patreon, let's just do a quick overview, will be $4.99 per month. Then plus tax, I believe. I don't think tax is included in that. Ad-free episodes, they're going to come out early. You'll get them 36 hours before everyone else. They're going to release at 12 a.m. every Wednesday. That's 12 a.m. Central Standard Time because I am in Iowa. So I'm just kind of going off of what's my local time here. Every episode will also come with a transcript that'll just be a plain text document that you can print out. I know a couple people have requested having something that they can read because they enjoy the stories, but they can't always listen for one reason or another, or they want to share it with friends and things like that. So, there'll be a transcript that you're able to download and do whatever you want with. And then, of course, these Into the Woods episodes. And what I'm going to do with these is this one's going to be a little bit different because it's the first one, but from this point on, I will start out with an episode recap where I also dive into the inspirations behind the stories, the meanings to certain things, if there are any. There's not always going to be a whole lot of deep digging because I don't always put a lot of deep thought into every single story. Some of them do, and they explore more meaningful themes, and we'll talk about that. Others, like this week's, are just kind of a simple narrative that we'll walk through. Maybe I'll point to specific things and talk about where I got different ideas and stuff like that. If you are a writer or you would like to be a writer, this might be a great way for you to kind of get some insights into how I put together these stories and where the ideas come from. Because honestly, I'm not like some kind of trained professional at this. I started doing this 3 years ago just because I felt like I wanted to. And everything that I've learned since then has been completely on my own by reading books by the true masters and listening to interviews and things like that. So hopefully I can share some of that with you. I can kind of condense some of those things down. And if you're interested, you can listen to those. Of course, if you don't want to listen to these episodes, you're not obligated to. Even if you become a patron, you can still just listen to the ad-free episodes early and be satisfied with that. It is totally up to you. One thing really quick that also comes with the Patreon that I forgot to mention is they have some new community features. So I don't know if you've been a patron before to different things and it's been a while. There's some new chat features, kind of like it's similar to like Reddit or maybe not Reddit, but maybe like a Discord server where basically I can set up a chat. What I will do is set up a chat for each story. So if you have thoughts about it, or if you have questions that you want answered, if you'd like to just have a community to discuss the stories with, there will be a chat for every episode that comes out. And then I may do some general like Q&A, things like that as time allows. So that's just another cool benefit that comes with the $4.99 per month. Let's go ahead and get into this week's story and do the episode recap. This will be the part of the Into the Woods episode that will be the most like future episodes of this bonus podcast. So this week's story Diaboli Forest. Like I alluded to earlier, this is a pretty simple story. There's not a lot of hidden meanings or deep thought. There's not a lot of, there's not even really any character development. We kind of get what we get. I didn't even name a couple of key characters in the story. I'm thinking of the barista and the priest. That was an intentional choice. I thought about naming them, but then, I was thinking about my day-to-day and not just, an ordinary day, but even when I'm on vacation and things like that, there are people that you stop to talk to or who stop to talk to you. I go to a lot of concerts and you have these little kind of conversations in between sets and things like that with people. And sometimes the conversation gets going and it hits this point where there's no good opening to ask someone's name. It becomes this awkward moment where that time is kind of past. And this person is not going to be someone who's staying in your life. You're probably never going to interact with them again. So that interaction with that person just kind of is what it is. And it just exists as that moment. And in this story, for some reason, I can't quite put my finger on, I was really just getting that feeling from Clayton and Devin's experience here in Plattsburgh, New York, that they were there, they're looking for jobs, there's kind of this potential that maybe they would end up settling down there, but they haven't really chosen to settle anywhere yet. And I kind of give the vibe that they're not going to get settled anywhere. So they're just kind of going about their day, and they're almost a little selfish in how they're interacting with these people. Like, when they're talking to the barista, they're trying to learn if the barista maybe has any job leads. They're trying to see how he could benefit them. When they go to the priest, they're not even religious. They say that, Clayton is questioning why Devin would even go there because he says, you've never been religious before. And it's just out of this desperation of, they have a problem that they need somebody to solve. They know they can't solve it themselves. So they go to this priest. And once he gives them the answer, they don't go back to him. They don't check back in. They don't let him know they just move on. And I think that is something that a lot of us do. We just think about an interaction on the internet. Just the other day, I was having some trouble buying some tickets. Again, there's so many concerts this year. I just have them heavy on the mind right now. There was a $25 ticket deal, and I was having a hard time getting into it. And I commented, and somebody responded with a very helpful answer. And it would have been so easy for me to just read that answer, do what this person told me to do, which I did do, and it worked. And I closed my browser. I closed Facebook. And I just got this nagging feeling that, I just got this great deal on these tickets because this person helped me out. I should go back and thank her. So I did. I went back and I just left a really simple comment. And we had this nice little interaction. She replied again, and I kind of got the feeling that she had probably forgotten that she'd even answered my question. So when I responded thanking her and told her that, yeah, I got a ticket, I'm really excited, and then she was really excited too. And it was just this nice little moment. So just as a general reminder to you, don't take those little interactions for granted. Even though everybody does it, we all have these fast-paced lives these days. Just note those people who help you out day to day. Maybe it's somebody you see at the grocery store every week, and ask them their name. Just be like, "Hey, I see you all the time. I'm just wondering what your name is." It can kind of help make those connections. So that's a little tangent. I'm probably going to end up doing that a lot. I don't know if you can tell from my voice. I'm going to do it especially a lot this week. I've been dealing with seasonal allergies for like 2 weeks now. I've been trying to time the episode recording so that my voice isn't too nasally like it is right now, but man, it just doesn't seem like there's ever a good time. I keep waiting for the day that I feel better, and it just is not coming. So on top of having this nasally voice, I also have just brain fog in and out. It's been driving me nuts. The only time I really am thinking clearly is like first thing in the morning, right after I take a cold shower and I've got a cup of coffee. That's like when I feel like I'm at my best. The rest of the day is just kind of a blur. So apologies if I get off topic as I do the rest of this. really going back to this just being a simple story, I feel like I haven't done a lot of just really straightforward narratives lately. Been doing a lot of the deep thoughts and the intricate themes and things like that. So I thought, you know what? This is a horror podcast. I want to do something that is just unsettling and a little disgusting. I've been reading Clive Barker's Books of Blood, so that's kind of where my creative inspiration is coming from right now. If you don't know, Clive Barker is the mastermind behind the Hellraiser movies, and of course, the Hellbound Heart, the book that kicked it all off. So yeah, much more of the gory kind of visceral horror. So I've just been feeling like doing something like that lately, and I always love a good demon story. I have a background in Christianity, and that was like the one thing, demons and hell and the devil and all that. It's like amongst Christians, there's a lot of debate about ghosts and things like that, and obviously there's these ideas of angels and other supernatural beings and stuff. But when it comes to kind of the spookier, creepy, paranormal stuff, demons are pretty widely considered to be real. So when I was a kid, demons were just a really, they're kind of a threat. It felt like a real threat, like a ghost or something like that was a fun concept. I never, until like a few years ago, I was never interested in vampires or werewolves or most monsters and things like that. It was basically like demons and slashers, because those seemed like they could be real. My thoughts have changed on a lot of that stuff, and if you subscribe to this Patreon and you listen to more of these, I am sure I will go into more of my personal thoughts and beliefs around the paranormal and supernatural and all that. But for this one, I'm going to keep it a little bit short. So yeah, demons, always fun for me to write about. And I somewhere saw some video where somebody was talking about a piece of land, a private property owned by the Catholic Church, and it did not have a church on it. It wasn't like a camp or anything like that. It was just this weird land that they owned for some reason. And I wish I could remember where that was, because little did I know it was going to inspire this whole story. But that's where the concept of this private forest came from. And the name Diaboli Forest, Diaboli is Latin for of the devil. I kicked around a few different names as I was kind of playing with some creepy sounding names in Latin and in Italian. And did I do any other languages? No, I think that was it. I think it was Latin and Italian, because the Catholic Church, the Vatican, and all that stuff. But I love Latin. Everything that is evil sounds so evil, and I don't know if that's like because of media and stuff like that, where everything has always gotten these Latin names, and the demons always speak in Latin, and the exorcisms are done in Latin a lot of times. So I don't know if it's like an association, but there's just something about Latin that just seems so sinister when it's used in the context of a horror story. So yeah, Diaboli Forest essentially means forest of the devil. It's this private land forest that the Catholic Church is guarding. And as Clayton and Devin discover, it's because there's this focal point, this pile of boulders, and there's this path of these weird bent trees that lead to it, and this empty stream bed that's just full of bones and carcasses. Essentially, it's just this giant rotting path towards this pile of boulders in the middle of the woods. And as they sort of disrupt the area, he takes the picture, and that seems to kick off this reaction where this disgusting ooze bubbles up from the core of the earth and starts rushing towards them through not rushing, it moves very slowly through the stream bed toward them. I'm sure if you've seen Ghostbusters or many, many other ghost-related movies, horror or not, you're familiar with the term ectoplasm. If you're not, it's essentially, don't come after me if you actually study this stuff or know more about it than me. But basically, it's a substance that is left behind by a paranormal spirit or entity. It's sort of like evidence that something was there. I wanted to, basically create like a dark, evil version of that. So that was this tar-like ooze that bubbled up and started chasing after them. Sort of like a physical manifestation of just this like congealed evil that is permeated through the entire forest. The trees are all black. They're dying. They're not producing leaves. And I sort of imply that, or maybe you're supposed to infer that this ooze that's coming up out of the ground is responsible for just the state of the forest there. Now, trying to escape the forest quickly, they have to go through this stream bed. I didn't explicitly say this because, I wanted to leave things ambiguous. I wanted the origin of the worms in Clayton's stomach and Devin's head. I wanted that to kind of be like, I wanted it to be a mystery whether or not it was a paranormal or a physical manifestation until later in the story. But I sort of imagined that the worms, which do turn out to be an actual physical manifestation of the evil, I kind of imagine that they picked up the parasite that produced all these worms while they're in the stream bed. They're going through this gross sucking mud and they're surrounded by the bones and everything. So if I were to write this out into like a fuller, like a novella or something like that, I'd probably go back and revisit the moment where they actually get infected by these worms. But since it's a short story, that's kind of left for you to infer. So then, they meet this priest after they discover the worms, and he, after deciding that they're dealing with some kind of sinister manifestation, he sends them back to the forest to dispose of the worms there, return them. And then I added, just to kind of cap it off, this scene where these birds come down and they eat the worms, and then they themselves take on the possession, and the demons, or demon singular, uses the birds to continue chasing after these two guys who think that their trouble's all in the past. That was sort of inspired, again, tying into biblical themes. There's the story of Jesus casting the demons into pigs, and they then run into the river and drown. So that was kind of the way Jesus cast these demons back to hell, or however you want to think about it. And actually, I have another story cooking up right now. It may be a few weeks before I get to it, but relating to the pigs, the idea of these demon-possessed pigs. Anyway, so that's kind of where that came from. I wanted to clear the evil, get rid of these worms somehow, so they get eaten by these birds. These birds all die because they either hit the car or they splatter on the road chasing the car. And it's just kind of this final chaotic scene of horror. And then we see the one moment of character development in this entire story, which is it's rare for me. I almost make the character development the story, and the horror elements are like a sideshow in my stories. A lot of the times, this is one where I just wanted to focus on the horror. So the one moment of character development is at the very end, where they're driving away, and Clayton asks where they're going to go next, and Devin just sort of resigns to their whole adventure and says home, and that's it. They're going home. They've had enough. They've tried exploring the world and looking for the next adventure, and now they're just ready to go back to the safety and comfort of what they know, because the unknown can be awful and terrifying. It can also be amazing and wonderful, but those aren't the stories I write, are they? All right. So you'll find that, as I talk about these stories, if you're an analytical person, you may be looking for the themes and the hidden metaphors and stuff like that. And sometimes you might find them, and sometimes they're supposed to be there. I do occasionally write stories that have a deeper thread. I think I usually make it pretty obvious when that's the case. So if it's not obvious, more than likely I'm not doing it on purpose, or I didn't mean to do it. I love when I get a YouTube comment or something from somebody that has really taken something that I said or a certain passage from the story and dissected it, and I read it and I go, wow, I wish I could say that was what I thought, because that is so much smarter and deeper than what was going on in my head. I'm not always the deepest thinker when I'm writing. A lot of times I just write something because I think it's scary or cool. This was definitely one of those stories where I just, everything in it. And there were actually other scenes and things in there that I took out because it was just too much. You know, there were too many things. I think I was really excited by this idea of just having these super surface level scary moments. And I overdid it a little bit, so I had to pull back to make the story more cohesive. But you'll find, especially if you listen to these episodes going forward, that I'm probably not as deep of a thinker as you would imagine. My stories are really just that most of the time. They're just stories. They're meant to entertain, and anything beyond that you get out of them is a bonus for you. And I'm happy about it. I'm glad about that. Unless you, for some reason, take my concepts and go in some crazy evil direction. But I don't think many of you or any of you will do that, will you? So, next, what I would do on a normal one of these episodes, and I say that as if I've done a bunch of them. This is only the second one. I should mention that there is already on Patreon, there is another one of these that I called episode 0. It's the true first one. I wanted to save that just for the people who sign up for the Patreon. So if you want to hear another one of these, I talked last week about my story, Clay. So there is another one of these that is already ready, episode 0, discussing the episode Clay. It's going to be, a lot of it's going to be repetitive if you listen to this, because I also introduce the episode format and all that stuff in that one. But if you care to check it out, that's there. I should mention that. So yeah, I've already, this is where I would normally talk about the podcast updates and what's going on, but I've sort of already done that, talking about the Patreon. This has been the big uptaking right now, getting this going. And I'm really excited that it's running now. I'm really excited to have this kicked off. I'm super excited to do more of these Into the Woods episodes and give you all some insights into that. So normally I'll probably spend a little bit more time talking about anything that's going on the back end. But for now, since I've already talked so much about the Patreon, let's move on to the personal section. I call it personal updates, but I think updates is incorrect. It's not always going to be like brand new information, but it'll probably be where I talk about maybe just something I've been thinking about lately, or something that is being talked about a lot in the forum or something like that. I also am hoping at some point to come up with a Q&A of some sort that people can submit questions to. Maybe we'll just use the community chats for that on Patreon. I don't quite know yet. Some of this is going to be a mystery until there's actual people signed up in the Patreon. So at the time of this recording, I haven't even announced it yet. So there's nobody there. This is all theoretical at this point. But I'd love to have a Q&A, and maybe I'll use the personal update section to answer some of those questions going forward. But today I wanted to take an opportunity, since I'm launching the Patreon, to discuss why I'm doing the Patreon, why it's $4.99 a month, and also because it relates, I want to talk about why I have ads in my episode, unlike the normal, podcast feeds. And basically, this is what it boils down to. Anything that you consume that's free online, I would guess that most of it, if it's on YouTube or whatever, other podcasts, they have ads, because that's kind of the simplest way creators like me can get some money kicked back our way for the time and effort we put into creating this content. I love doing this. I truly enjoy it. It's a passion. I would do it for no money, but I would do it a lot less. I would maybe do like an episode a month if I wasn't getting paid for them. Maybe not even that much. I think it would really depend on what I had going on in my personal life, my professional life. You know, I do this on top of a normal full-time job. That's how I really support my family. I also have a family. I have a wife and daughter. Lots of family and friends around too. So there's you know, a lot of other things I could be doing with my time, I guess is what I'm saying, than writing a story every week. I wake up at 5:30 or earlier every morning. I start working again on this, usually around like 8 o'clock at night until, 10:30, 11:30 at night. I spend multiple hours, 7 days a week, including most holidays and things like that, working on this show. Even when I go on vacation, I take my laptop with me and I'm sitting in a hotel working on stories and things like that. So it's a huge commitment from me and a lot of time, a lot of energy. And I couldn't do it if there was no financial incentive on the other end too. The passion is definitely there. I love doing this, like I said, but to keep it consistent and do an episode every week, it is really crucial that I have some sort of tangible reward for that. Even if it's not for me, just to give my family something I can point to be like, this is why I'm doing, a podcast instead of hanging out with you right now. because of this. So, the Patreon is just another way, so basically what I'm saying is that's why I have ads right now. That's why they're there. So that I can get something out of this since I'm putting so much into it. The Patreon is just there so that if you are somebody who particularly loves The Warning Woods, you enjoy my work, or you just want to support me as a fully independent creator, let me rephrase that. I am on the Realm Network, which has been wonderful so far. They're great. If you are into this kind of show, you should check out some of the other shows on Realm because they've got all kinds of cool stuff in it, and that's been great. But from a content creation standpoint, they're not helping me write the stories or edit them or record the audio or any of that kind of stuff. That's all me. I do everything. When it comes to creating an episode, I do everything on my own. So it's a ton of work from me. And the Patreon is there for the people who just really appreciate that and want to give something. And I'm very thankful for anyone who signs up for that. And I want to give, things like this episode back as another way of saying thank you. So, yeah, I understand that ads are frustrating and they're annoying, especially in a fictional story, a narration that's a little bit more serious or given some spooky vibes and things like that, and then you get interrupted with like a car insurance ad. I get it. I do. I'm frustrated by that too in podcasts that I listen to, but I also understand why those ads are there. And I recognize that if I'm consuming content that I'm not directly paying for, I probably need to expect that there's going to be some sort of consequence to that. And, feel free to skip the ads if you don't want to listen to them. If you do listen to them, everything is tracked these days. So they know whether or not these ads are being listened to. If they're skipped, I'm not paid for that listen. But, if it really bothers you that much, please listen to the story, enjoy it, skip the ads. I'd much rather have you listen to the story than quit listening to the podcast or something like that over ads. So I hope that all makes sense. I hope I don't come across as some kind of, greedy person or something that just wants money. That's really not what it is. I did this for almost 3 years before I got paid a dime for it. It was really only last year that I started making any money at all. And it's not like a fortune, it's like a nice little supplement to my other income. So, Yeah, I hope that makes sense. I really do. And if you don't want to hear the ads for $4.99 a month, please sign up for Patreon. You get ad-free episodes. So how that'll work is when you sign up for the Patreon, you can get a RSS feed link that you're able to put in whatever podcast app you listen to, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever. I'm sure you know this if you've been a patron to other shows or other like premium sort of shows and things like that. I don't know what I was trying to say there. So you don't actually have to listen on Patreon, but you can. And with that RSS link, you will get the normal stories, again, 36 hours early. And then I'm going to release these episodes at the same time. So you'll just automatically get the story and the Into the Woods episode in your podcast app if you just do those steps. And I will, once I have this published and I can actually like see how it's all going to work directly, I will put instructions. I'll make a post in the Patreon with instructions on how to do that. So anyway, I've been doing this for about 30 minutes. That's kind of my goal is 25, 30 minutes, somewhere in there with these. So I'm going to cut it off here. Please consider becoming a patron. There's a 7-day free trial. So if you want to check out the other episode I said I recorded, or if you're hearing this like a few weeks after I recorded it, you can sign up for a 7-day free trial. You can binge some of these episodes and see if this is something that you are interested in. You can try out the ad-free experience and all that stuff. So with that, thank you to any of you who do sign up after this. And just thank you to all of you too for listening and for all your support. I never would have imagined that after 3 years, so many of you would be listening to this, that the ratings would all be so good and everything. So I appreciate it, and I will work hard to keep bringing some good stories to you. All right, take care.